Welcome to the WEInvested podcast, where we teach you how to save and make more cash. I'm your host, Wesley, and here I have with me
Jacob Rodriguez.
And this is season 1, episode 5, the importance of investing. But before we get started, I must let you know we do not offer any financial, legal, or tax advice on this show. Let's do it. Welcome back. In today's episode, we'll be talking about the importance of investing. But before we get into that, I wanted to give the cash quote of the day, like we always do here on this show.
Yeah.
So, quote for the day is, never depend on a single income. Make investments to create a second source. And that's by Warren Buffett.
Yep.
Another powerful quote, man. He's a quote machine.
Yeah, he's crazy. If anyone doesn't know about Warren Buffett, or I'm sure most people do, he's like one of the richest people alive. But yeah, man, he just says things that you're just like, how does someone think of something that's so wise and so smart to say, and always says it in such a compact form. He's always killing it with the quotes.
Yes, sir, man. So let's get into it.
Yeah. Investing,
big topic. Everybody's always asking about, everybody wonders about, everybody wants to understand and know how to do and participate in. So I think this would be a good topic for us to get into today.
Yeah, I'm excited about it.
Yeah, man. So what is investing? Investing is purchasing items with the expectation of generating profit or income.
Mm-hmm.
And you can also invest your time and energy for long-term benefits. So it doesn't only have to be money. You can invest your time, your talents, whatever the case may be.
Yeah, definitely. And some might even argue that investing your time is a lot more powerful than investing your money, which I'd probably agree with. But
oh yeah, for sure, man. Because if you put in time to perfect your craft or do whatever that you're doing, you'll always get that energy back. So whatever you put into it, you'll basically get right back.
Yeah. But we're talking more about kind of money investing today, right?
Exactly. Cash investments.
Yeah. So maybe a good place to start is, why should people invest?
Yeah, man. So people should invest to build wealth.
Yeah.
To grow your money.
Yeah, totally. And I think it's really just about, there's a lot of factors kind of working against you. The main one is inflation, right? So this is something that we're all kind of told in school, but we don't really see in real life unless you're really, thinking about it, is that, usually, it differs every year and across the decades. There's about 2% inflation. So your money that's sitting in your bank account that isn't, doing anything and just kind of sitting there, in theory, and in what's called purchasing power. So, the power that your money has to purchase things, just like, what it sounds like, it declines by, on average, 2% every year. So your money's becoming, less and less valuable every year. That's just kind of sitting in your bank account. So investing is just the kind of the solution to that. You need to do something with your money and make it grow above that.
Exactly. And that's the key point. Or that's the key, the key point is to find ways to make your money grow faster than inflation.
Yeah, and the point of that being is that you're hopefully expecting that one day you're not going to be working, that you're not going to have an income coming in, and so you need to be able to save for those years. That after you're 65 or whenever your goal is that you need to have enough money to keep on purchasing and hopefully live in the lifestyle that you're living at the current moment, or even a better one, which would be great.
Very true. Mm-hmm. Very true. And we're here talking about investing. But before you start investing, it is very, very smart and very much recommended that you research before you invest.
Yeah, definitely. And that's what it's really all about. There's a ton of people, more people than you could probably listen to in a lifetime, telling you where you should be investing, whether it should be in gold and, ETFs and, some crazy, new restaurant that, your brother's, cousin, which is also your cousin, but you know what I'm saying? Some obscure person who's trying to, get you to invest in some wacky idea. There's always people trying to, get your money some way. And some of those investments may be good, some may not. But the most important thing is that you have to really know what your money's going towards, about the business or whatever you're putting your money into. You need to know, how it's going to make money and, how safe is it.
Exactly, man. You have to make sure you understand what you're buying before you buy it.
Yeah, and that's the key to all investing. We talked about Warren Buffett, at the top of the episode, and that's what he's all about. He says that he only invests his money in the company that he knows, and if he doesn't understand a company, if something's too complex, like if it's some microchip company that's building these crazy advanced things for artificial intelligence, unless that's something that you really know a ton about, maybe you should stick away from that, even though it sounds really cool.
Right, man. It's always best to stick with what you know.
Yeah.
Stick with companies that you like, stick with people that you trust.
Yeah.
And just go for credible sources. Don't just invest off hearsay.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, man. But in that same breath, we have to mention that investing, even though it has its upsides and it has a lot of benefits, there are also risks that come with investing.
Yeah, definitely. And I think this is probably what scares most people about investing.
Right.
Is that there's years that take the S&P 500, which is just a collection of the 500 biggest companies in the US. So names that you would recognize, like Apple, any IBM, just the big companies that you interact with every single day.
For sure.
Sometimes the value of all those stocks that are in the S&P 500, sometimes they dip by 7%, sometimes they go up, and sometimes it makes people a little scared. They feel like they're gambling with their money, which they really aren't, but it sometimes feels like that, right?
Right. And so, it's a good thing to go into investing with the mindset of, okay, I may lose money.
Yeah.
That's always a possibility. It's always a chance. So before I, promote investing to everyone, I do want to let them know that it is a possibility that you can lose money, whether it's in stocks, whether it's in real estate.
Yeah.
Whatever you're investing in, there is the possibility of a loss.
Yeah, and that's very important to understand that there are risks and be very cautious about what you're investing in. But hopefully, whatever you decide on, it's one of the key tenets of investing that you kind of spread out your money across different sources. And today it's easier than ever to do that. I'm not saying everyone should do this, but there's options where there's Vanguard is a company that you can buy ETFs through, and a number of different things, but they have something that you can buy for a share that you can, it's called, I think, the all world cap, and something like that. It's all world, so they aggregate a bunch of the companies across the world, thousands and thousands of companies that you can just buy one share of that, and you have ownership, which we'll talk about, interest in all companies across the world. So you're really well diversified. It doesn't matter if one goes out of business, there's probably one that's going to be doing better than the others, and it kind of evens itself out.
For sure, man. It's you can never go wrong diversifying and putting your money in, not putting all your eggs in one basket, pretty much.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, man. It's a good way to steer clear of those risks, as well as, like we said before, understanding what you're investing in and doing your research before you get into it. So those are pretty much the two main ways that you can avoid risk, by doing your research and then diversifying or putting your money in, different pots.
Yeah, and something that I actually read really interesting that I thought was just incredible. This isn't my idea, and I don't know whose idea it is. I forget the guy who explained it really well, but I think a lot of people are afraid because of the ups and downs of it, that they just don't go into it at all. But I think the analogy of a casino is really good when it thinks about investing, because a lot of people compare it to gambling, right?
Right.
But like how a casino makes money is they know that some nights, they're going to lose money because there's, it's just the way that the chance goes. But how they've set up their business is in a way that they know if enough people play over enough long time period, that they're going to make money. The probability, it's almost certain that they cannot lose money across, a long time period. And the same thing goes for investing, except for that hopefully, if you're doing it in the right way, in a diversified way, you're the casino. That there's some days you might lose money, there's sometimes you might gain a ton of money, but over the long term, the probability that you'll come up on top is really great.
Exactly, man. And that's the important piece, is investing for the long term.
Yeah.
I know Warren Buffett personally believes in the buy and hold strategy.
Yeah.
Where he'll buy a stock, buy into a company with the idea, with the thought of holding it for 10 years plus.
Yeah.
So, if it's a good company, if it's a solid stock, if it's a good company, the company will do well.
Yeah.
It'll succeed. And if the company succeeds, then the stockholders succeed.
Yeah, definitely.
So, man, investing for the long term, which is, I think it's a really important piece of investing that people that, I guess, people who haven't started investing yet, may not really understand. A lot of people invest with the thought of, or get into the investing game with the thought of, you'll make quick cash, you'll make quick money.
Yeah, a lot of people think that.
Yeah, man, it's not a quick game at all.
It's super hard to do that. Very, very, very few people are able to do that and keep on doing that.
Right, man. So, it's just best to have the idea of, this is a slow process.
Yeah.
But, it's still a winning process. You can look at the history of it, and you see that you're pretty much guaranteed to make money, like you said, over that long period of time. So if you just go into it with the mindset of, it'll take some time, but it'll work.
Yep.
Eventually, then I think you'll win, and I think everything will turn out the way you want it to.
Yeah, and this is talked about so much, that the key to investing is being really smart, knowing what you're investing in, but it's also an emotional discipline that you have to do, is because it's tough when you've dedicated something, you feel like you really know it, and you put money into it, even if it is super diversified, and you see it go down a few percent, you start questioning yourself. Did I miss something? Did I not look into something correct? But that's just kind of how it goes. You have to have the emotional intelligence, and being able to hold yourself steady, even though and not make any sudden movements just based off of irrational emotions, and stick to what you know.
Right, man. And that's a thing too that people can do. They may see that they're investing in something and it's not doing as well as they thought it would, or it's going downhill, so they want to pull their money out, or you want to try to get out of it as fast as possible. But like everything else in life has its ups and downs, so it's best to just try to ride it out.
Yeah, and definitely. And if something's changed, maybe it is time to sell it and go into something new. But if nothing's changed and it's just your feelings, it's not always a great idea to be pulling out money or putting money somewhere just based on how you're feeling that day.
For sure, man. So we wanted to get into a few more of the benefits of investing. I know we first mentioned one of the main benefits of investing is building wealth, which is a must in this day and age, in this lifetime. You want to build something to help sustain yourself in the future. You want to build something for your future to live a comfortable life, a better life. So I think that's the first benefit.
Yeah, definitely. And something that's really interesting is that this is one of the first generations really that has to do this for themselves, right? Because like our grandparents mostly, they had pension plans, right? So they just worked for a company for 30, 40 years, whatever. And then when they retired, they were guaranteed a X percentage of their ending salary or whatever. So they didn't have to worry about investing. But something that people don't understand is like 401ks, like having to save for your own investment. It's only like 50 years old or something like that. So
oh wow, see, I didn't even know that.
yeah, exactly. So like we're the generations before us, our parents are really like kind of the first like guinea pigs of seeing how this system works. So a lot of people, like, this isn't built into our DNA or how we thought. We're kind of like one of the first generations to do this. So it's super important to understand that if you don't do this, there's consequences, and that, once you can't work or whatever, sometimes, there's no other way to get money.
Right, for sure, man. And that's a scary thought.
Yeah, it is a little scary, but it's a good thought though, because there's so many resources out there to help you out in investing. But it's important, just like anything, that you should be doing it.
Awesome, man. And so I think another a benefit for investing would be, and you touched on this earlier, would be ownership.
Yeah.
So it's always good to be a owner of anything. Whatever you have, it's best to own it.
Yeah.
So you can say it's yours, and
Yeah. No, I totally agree, and that's the cool part, is that, and it's so easy to have ownership in so many things now. Like I talked a little bit about, you can basically buy a percentage interest in a bunch of companies across the entire world today. Like no one was able to do that before. So like just saying like, hey, I own like 0.00001% of Coca-Cola. It's
right.
A true statement. If you purchase one of their stocks, which is, it's a cool thing to say, but it's also just awesome that you get interest in all these companies that are hopefully on the up and up, so that you're gaining wealth, not just these companies.
Right. So it's always good to get in on a piece of the action. You don't just want to be a bystander or the whole time. You want to be an owner and get in the game too. So
totally.
It's always great to be an owner.
Yeah,
man. And so I guess a good segment or a good segue into the next benefit of ownership. With ownership comes leverage.
Yeah.
And so I think explaining leverage could be an entire episode in its own in itself. But just in a nutshell, I would explain leverage, or leverage. How can I explain it? So, okay, if you have 10,000 shares of Microsoft.
Yeah.
But you would like to get a loan to maybe purchase some real estate, or purchase anything, whatever you would need the loan for, you could use those shares of stock as leverage. You can use it as collateral to get that loan, to maybe get a higher loan, or maybe get a lower interest rate, or whatever the case may be. But that ownership, because you own something, whether it's stocks, land, real estate, whatever, that'll give you leverage to give you better access to money and to borrowing money.
Yeah, and I think that's something that a lot of people don't understand, is that they think, once they invest their money, it's not really theirs, like in the same way that the cash in their bank account is.
Right.
But it's the same thing. The cash in your bank account has value, and your portfolio of investments has value. So banks or whoever is loaning you money, they can recognize that value that's in your investment accounts, and they can use that, like you said, as collateral to make a loan against.
Yeah, man. And so our next point, I think it depends on the investor.
Yeah.
But there are different ways to invest. Basically, two different ways. You can be a passive investor, or you can be an active investor. So a passive investor is someone that would like to put their money in ETFs, like Jacob here was explaining. Kind of just put your money in the market and let it do its thing.
Yeah.
And then you have an active investor who goes out and kind of actively researches what they want to invest in. They actively research the company, or they actively search for properties or land.
Yeah.
So it's two different sides to it.
Yeah, and a lot of people make the distinction that passive is mostly like ETFs, like what you said, and then active are people who are buying individual companies or doing individual investments. But something that, again, isn't my idea, but is a really great idea, is that everyone is in some way active investors. A lot of people,
Okay.
feel that they, if they buy ETFs or whatever, like they just have the S&P 500 ETF, that they think, I'm a passive investor. But your decision to allocate, 100% of your funds to the S&P 500 is an active decision. So like if you're deviating at all from, the way that the world allocates its money, that saying that, if there's more money in debt across the world, but you only put your money in stocks, you're making an active decision to what you would say underweight that debt and overweight the stocks. So there's a lot of people kind of, try to divide those two camps up, but everyone's making active decisions in your life, and active isn't really a bad word. Like it kind of gets, put in the media today, but it's just a good thing to recognize.
That's awesome, man. That's a great way to look at it. And actually, I've never looked at it like that myself either. But I think that's a different perspective and a really cool one too. Because even if you, like you say, even if you are investing in ETFs or doing automatic investing or whatever, you're still making the active choice, the active decision to do so.
Yep, definitely.
Yeah, man, I like that. All right. So, point number 5. For the benefits of investing would be it beats inflation, which is kind of how we started the episode.
Totally.
Kind of coming back full circle, but that is a very, very important piece to reasoning behind investing, to beat inflation. So you kind of just won't lose value of your money while it's sitting in your room, sitting in your wallet, sitting in your savings account that's only making like 0.01% interest on your money.
Yeah, totally. And that's something, again, that a lot of people don't really factor into their savings. They think, a lot of people who don't use banks or whatever, like they just like keep their money, somewhere in their house or whatever. Like you don't realize that your money is losing money, and that inflation really adds up over a while. Like $5 million, even though in today's money sounds like a ton, if you had $5 million 40, 50 years from now, it's not going to be the same. It's going to be closer to like, $1 million or something.
It will not have the same buying power.
Yeah, exactly. So even though you may, in what's called nominal terms, not inflation adjusted, you may feel like, man, I'm going to have a ton of money if I keep on saving like this and not investing. It loses money over time, and it has a big effect.
For sure, man, for sure. And it's kind of like when you go to the grocery store as a kid, you remember that, or even the gas station or something. As a kid, you remember if you had $2, you could get 2 bags of chips,
totally,
a drink, and some candy. But now if you go to the store, go to the gas station with just $2, you get 1 bag of chips and that's it.
Yeah, exactly. And mostly everything, kind of works that way, that it gets pricier over time.
Exactly. And so to our next point, our next benefit, number 6, is to retire comfortably.
Yeah.
Which is basically, preparing and securing your future by investing.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of the goal of most people when they're investing, is they want to have a time in their life where they're not, working 8 to 5 or whatever your work schedule is, and they can spend more time doing the things they love, and investing enables you to do that, which is awesome because, think about 100 years, 200 years back. For most people, retirement wasn't in existence. You work basically till you die, or you hope your family takes care of you when you can't work, right?
Right.
In today's day and age, it's such a new idea that at 65, you hopefully have, a good like 20, 30 years left on you that you keep on enjoying living your life, which is awesome.
Right. And you do not want to outlive your money.
No. And that's the goal too. You don't want to run out of money by the time you're, on your deathbed and you really need it for healthcare costs, but you also don't want to have too much money.
Right, man. Wait, too much money?
Yeah.
Is it possible to have too much money?
Well, maybe for most people, it's kind of a crazy idea, and it's good to be able to pass things on to your kids or whatever. But also, you don't, and this is, such a tangent, is you want to live the best life. You only have one life, right? You know, and if you're, say, like investing 40% of your income, and then you die and you have an extra, whatever, $10 million extra, and you know, cut out your quality of life to, you know, just basically have $10 million that you're never going to see for the rest of your life. You know, you're cutting back. Time is the most important, you know, asset that you have. You can't get it back, right? So you need to, you know, you want to be able to give something to your kids that's a blessing or whatever, but you also, you know, want to value your time as well.
Yes. And just for the record, just so everybody knows, that is a problem. I want to have too much money.
Right. It's always better to overshoot. Yeah, for sure. That being said.
Yeah, man. Yeah. And then so our last point right here, point number 7 would be to prepare for emergencies.
Yeah.
Like we kind of said, like Jacob said before, when you're a little older and you're sick and you have these medical, you know, bills and doctor visits, you don't want to have to worry about not having money to cover those visits. Totally.
And this is something that maybe I deviate from a lot of financial people, and I'm a little I'm not saying this is advice at all, but my emergency fund is actually fully invested in the stock market, right?
Ooh.
Yeah, so a lot of people might think, you know, like, what are you doing? You know, your emergency fund should be accessible at all times, and it should be super easy to get to. But for me, you know, when I'm thinking of emergency fund, I'm probably not going to have an emergency, you know, every single year.
Right.
Yeah, so I want my money to be somewhere, and it doesn't have to be in the stock market. It could be, you know, split up any number of ways, you know, safer investments, whatever you're more comfortable with. But I know I'm probably not going to be touching that most years, and hopefully ever. So I want my money to be able to grow, you know, while it's sitting there. And I know it's probably not going to go down 50%, you know, tomorrow. So I feel comfortable taking that risk and knowing that I'm probably going to, you know, be better of it because of that.
And because you're pretty young.
Yeah, and I have super long time to go, so I know that, you know, I could sit in there and really gain some wealth, and so yeah, that's how I do it. But you know, you could do that in any number of ways.
Yeah, he can definitely afford that risk. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, totally.
But yeah, man, I think that's pretty cool, man. That's a pretty risky move, man. You know what I'm saying? I respect that, though.
Yeah, exactly. And it's just based off whatever tolerance you have for risk. So.
Yeah, man, I respect that. But yeah, man, I think that wraps up episode 5 for us today. Thank you guys for checking us out and tuning in. So Jacob, can you tell the people how they can reach you?
Yeah, man, you can find me on Instagram at Here's Me Jacob. I'm infrequently on there, as people who listen to this know, but you know, I'll get back to you on there.
Yes, sir. And then you can follow us on Twitter at WEInvested. You can follow us on Facebook at WEInvested. You can follow us on Instagram, of course, at WEInvested.
Yeah.
And if you're watching this on YouTube, please like, comment, and subscribe, and share. Thank you, guys.
Yeah, thank you.